Claudia. I'm a self-proclaimed bookworm. My boyfriend, not so much. So I started summarizing entire books for him. Dramatic plot twists, romantic betrayals, magical quests, all of it. Basically, he gets the story without reading a single page. And now I'm doing the same for you. Welcome to The Whole Story, the channel where I read the book and then tell you the whole story, literally. Fantasy, romance, literary fiction. If it has yearning, magic, or emotional damage, I've got you covered. I'll tell you the whole story in 30 minutes or less, spoilers included. Yes, I will tell you who dies, who cries, and who should have just gone to therapy. So, if you like books, but you don't have the time to read all of them, or you just want to know what happens without the emotional labor, hit subscribe and let's write some endings together. Yeah, because life's too short to read 700 pages of slow burn, unless you're into it. I kinda am. Hi there! So in preparation for the movie coming out soon on Netflix, today we're going to talk about People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. And this is a romance. It is set in the United States, and in terms of tropes, I would say it's friends to lovers, a bit of a grumpy versus sunshine, and I think that's it for tropes. Yeah. So we followed the love story of Poppy Wright and Alex Nielsen. And it is a very interesting book, how it's written, because you only get glimpses of their story. It's a bit like One Day by David Nichols, the book and the series and the movie, where you only get a little snippet of their lives. So in this book, we follow Poppy and Alex throughout the years because they always take a summer trip together. So it starts with this summer, and then it goes back to when they first met 12 years ago, and then it goes, 11 years ago, 10 years ago, 9 years ago, etc., until it reaches the present. So that's how the story builds. In terms of personality, Poppy is the eccentric one. She's kind of special, she's loud with her personality and the way she dresses, the way she talks. She comes from a very messy family, 2 older brothers, the house always full of stuff, there's always animals around, full of memories, knickknacks, and everything is just a bit of a big mess, and life is a big mess, but they're all happy. Whereas Alex comes from family that is a bit more quiet. He lost his mother a few years ago when he was like 6 or 7, and she died giving birth to his younger brother. So they are 3 brothers or 4 brothers, I don't remember now. But when she first died, their father didn't cope very well with her passing away, and he let him get taken by grief. So Alex, as the older brother, he really had to step up. So it kind of feels like he didn't have a childhood because he was there to take care of his brothers, to make their meals, make dinner, take care of their dad. So he had to grow up really fast. So he's very calm, takes care of everybody else around him before taking care of himself. He doesn't let his emotions show. He's not very effective with, touching and hugging and things like that, because that's just not how they did things in their family. So now you know our 2 main characters. The story starts with the very first chapter is actually like 5 years ago, and you just get a little snippet of one of their trips that they went to Sunnyvale, and it's raining and they didn't get to go to the beach and to the pool like they planned to. But they ended up making the best of it. You get introduced to the characters a little bit. Poppy is the narrator, so she introduces Alex to you, and you get to see him how she sees him, which is quite nice and lovely because she loves him so much, right? He's her best friend, and she sees all of his flaws and quirks and all these things, and she loves him for it. So right away from the very beginning, you also kind of fall in love with Alex. And it's a very normal trip, except for the whole rain thing, and it ends with them taking a picture together. And yeah, I'll get back to that at some point. Then we jump to this summer and jump to Poppy having the best life ever. She lives in New York City. She's having a dream job. She's always wanted to travel and see places and become someone independent and strong and extrovert and having a really cool life. And that's what she's managed to do. So she is a writer for a magazine called R&R, Rest and Relaxation, and her job is basically to travel around the world and write about it. So she just has to write articles about her trips, take photographs, try out things, and that's basically her job. So she is having a great time, but in this specific year, she is actually not that happy. And she's not sure why. She's been doing this for some time now, traveling for a living. And she's starting to realize that there's something missing. She's not as happy as she should be. She's hit all her professional goals and she has what you would call an amazing life, and still she's lonely. There is a lot about loneliness in this book, which is, I think, portrayed in a very interesting way. And she's lonely, she's sad, but she doesn't understand why, because technically she ticked all her boxes. You also find out that she hasn't talked with Alex in 2 years. So they haven't had their summer trip, that's what they call it, in 2 years, and they haven't talked since then. And the whole book, it's referenced this trip that they went to Croatia, and it's referenced about the thing that happened in Croatia and what happened in Croatia, but you don't really find out what happened until the very last chapter, of course. So Poppy is trying to figure out what's her next step. Her boss is asking her to come up with an idea of her next destination, and she's having a hard time trying to figure out where she wants to go. She doesn't have a lot of close friends apart from Alex. She has a best friend that lives in New York called Rachel, and she's talking to Rachel one of these days, and she's trying to explain how she's feeling. She doesn't understand what's missing, and it's a really interesting conversation. Rachel talks to her and tells her how in life you're always looking for something and trying to achieve all your goals, and once you do, you find out that you're not content, right? Because contentment is not the same thing as purpose. So as long as you always have a purpose and you always have something to live for, something to strive for, it doesn't necessarily mean a professional goal, but something that means you keep trying, right? And Poppy doesn't have that anymore because she's reached her dreams. And Rachel tells her, you should treat happiness like an object, like a set of keys. You know, if you lost your keys, what would you do? You would look around and try to find your keys. Where's the last place you found them? Where did you go? Where could you have dropped them? Do the same thing with your happiness. Look into your past. Think about when is the last time you were happy? What happened? What was the situation? Where were you? Who were you with? And Poppy's like, you know what? Actually, the last time I was happy, it was with Alex. Because our summer trips was the happiest time of my life. That's always what I looked forward to every single year. And that's what I need to get back to. So she starts thinking about Alex a lot, and she does have a lot of back and forth, like, should I, shouldn't I? Could we get back to how things were before? And then one night she's just at home and she decides, screw it, I'm just gonna do it. So she just texts him like, hey. And he replies, and they talk a little bit back and forth, and she's really thinking, this is what I need to do to find my happiness. I need to get back on a trip with Alex, my best friend. So out of nowhere, she just says, what are you doing this week? Would you want to get out of town? And this is during the summer vacation. Alex is a teacher at a high school, a literature teacher, and he's on vacation. And he actually says, yes, let's do it, because turns out he has to go to his little brother's wedding in Palm Springs in 2 weeks' time. And he just invites her to go with him. They talk about it and they decide to just extend the trip, go a few days before and have their summer trip and then just stay for the wedding. But when she goes to her boss and she pitches the idea of Palm Springs, her boss is like, no, what do you mean? It's low season, because in Palm Springs, the summer is low season. And Poppy tries to convince her, but her boss says, no, like, this is an aspirational magazine. We are trying to sell the dream. We're not going to talk about the low season in Palm Springs. And Poppy tries to convince her, you know, trying to explain we could do it like a cheap trip and trying to show how everybody, even the people that don't have a lot of money, could afford and enjoy Palm Springs in the low season. But her boss is adamant. She says, no, you're going to go to Santorini because that's the next best thing. And Poppy actually says, you know what? I don't want to go to Santorini. Give it to my colleague who actually really wants to go. I'm going to take some vacation. I'm going to take some days off and do my own thing. And her boss is like, okay, sure, take your vacation. So Poppy gets on the flight and she goes to Palm Springs and she meets Alex, and it's a bit awkward at the beginning, but they've been friends for a really long time, so they just get the hang of it. And Poppy's trying so hard to just make sure that the whole trip is perfect. So she actually doesn't tell him about the fact that this trip is not being sponsored by the magazine. And she doesn't want to tell him the truth because she knows if he knew she was paying for it, he wouldn't want to go because he's very conscious about money. So she tells him it's okay, the magazine is paying for it. The magazine is totally fine with us doing a cheap version of the trip. So it's okay, don't worry about it. So she books everything. She books an Airbnb or hotel that turns out to be really, really bad. No air conditioning. It's super, super warm in Palm Springs. The pool is full of kids. You know, it's like terrible. And the whole trip is just basically terrible. They have 3 days that is just the two of them in Palm Springs together before they have to join the wedding party. And everything goes wrong. Like Alex gets a back spasm, can't move for a whole day. They get a car that is really crappy and breaks down. You know, it's everything, one thing after another. It's just everything going wrong. And Poppy's having all of these hopes and dreams put into this trip because the most important thing to her in her life is her friendship with Alex and the people that she loves. The one thing she wants is to be loved and accepted for who she is and everything that she is. What I just told you now, it's basically all the main chapters of this summer, but it does jump back and forth between the other years. So we do find out how they first met. They are both from Cincinnati, from Linfield or something like that. And they both went to the University of Chicago. They met one of the first days. They didn't really like each other at all. He was very basic, boring, wearing khakis, kind of plain. And she was wearing like vintage clothes and really colorful. And she was all like, "Hi there, I'm Poppy, who are you?" And he was like, "Who is this person? Why is she so loud?" So they really didn't hit it off. And actually I found out at the end that Emily Henry, she really got inspired by the movie When Harry Met Sally, because it starts off the same way. They really don't like each other at the beginning, and then something happens and then they start to talk. So it does follow a bit of parallel with that, because how they actually start being friends is at the end of the first semester or first year or something. He is driving back to Linfield and she manages to get a ride with him. They don't know that they're the other person, but they just end up being in a car stuck together for hours. And because they know that they don't really like each other, they don't have to put up a face and pretend to be someone they're not. So they're just being very honest with each other, talking about the things that they like, that they don't like. He is not afraid to show how weird he is. She is not afraid to show how weird she is, because there's no stakes here. So of course they develop a great friendship that develops over 12 years. And they start off with this whole summer trip thing, because they talk about that first summer, they're both in the same city and they hang out a few times. They go for karaoke, which is really nice. And they talk about the fact that they both really want to see the world and they both really want to travel. And they say, you know what? Next year, we're going to do a trip together. And they do their first trip and it's really fun. They go to Canada somewhere and they really enjoy it and they really connect. And they promise each other, no matter what, no matter where we are, we will always have a summer trip. So every summer we'll get together, we'll go somewhere. So that's how it starts, a series of little trips. And it's really heartwarming to see how their friendship develops over time. There are a few times where it's like, "Oh, but don't you like each other? Aren't you sleeping together?" And it's like, no. And it's almost like he's my big brother kind of thing. But Poppy does say that at any point in their friendship, it's like 95% platonic, and there's always a 5% what if. And this 5% goes up and down depending on the year, but there's always something there. But she knows that, especially as their friendship develops, they know that they just want to be in each other's lives, and they're very different people and they don't want the same things. Poppy wants to travel and leave, and Alex wants to stay close to his family. So it's very clear that the relationship would never work, so they just really stay in the friend zone forever. Their first few years, they're traveling mostly in North America. So they go to Canada, they go to New Orleans one year, they also go to Nashville, they go to San Francisco, and they do have some really, really nice memories and some nice experiences. One time they're hiking in the mountain, she twists her ankle and he has to carry her down the mountain, which is really cute. and they dance and they party and they get really drunk together, and they're really free with each other. And you can see how Alex is becoming a different person when he's with her and when he's in these summer trips, because he's uninhibited and he can just show a different version of himself. And of course, as these trips are going, like, their lives are continuing. So of course they date people. Poppy, at some point, she moves to New York. She's just being a waitress at this point. She has a blog where she talks about their trips and her travels, but she's, bartending, waitressing, and doing odd jobs here and there. Whereas Alex is going to university. He's doing a creative literature course, and then he's studying English as well. And then he's doing his teacher's license thing. Poppy is, at one point, she's dating a chef called Guillermo, but it doesn't work out. She tries to take him home to her family, and he is really not liking her family. He thinks they're very loud and messy, and she's very protective over their family. So of course this doesn't end up well, and then he ends up ditching her for someone younger, which is terrible. And at the same time, Alex has always had a crush on this girl that used to work in the library with him in the University of Chicago. At some point they reconnect and they start dating, and then they're in an on and off relationship for a really long time. So they do have their own thing going on. There is one trip where they do bring everybody together, because they were always very adamant to just do the summer trip. There's the two of them, and also Sarah, the girl that Alex is dating. She doesn't like Poppy, obviously. Like, his best friend is a girl that is very important for him, and it's a lot of times it's Poppy first and then the girlfriend. So of course she doesn't like her. But there is one trip where they go to Tuscany, and Alex brings Sarah, and Poppy brings her boyfriend at the time, who is Trey, a photographer from the magazine, because at this point she's already working at the magazine. And it doesn't go very well. They have a really good time, and she actually starts to talk more to Sarah, and they sort of create a friendship. But at some point she has a pregnancy scare, and when Alex finds out, he's comforting her, and they do have, throughout the years, they do have these moments where the 5% goes much higher. And when the pregnancy scare happens, I think they both understand that he would be there for her no matter what. Like, he would put her first. If she were pregnant, he would drop everything to go and help her and to just be there for her, regardless of what Sarah thinks. So I think every time they sense that they're getting too close, they really just push the other way. So they stop talking for a while. They each break up with their respective boyfriend, girlfriend. You find out that Alex was actually getting ready to propose to Sarah, and he didn't because of everything that happened. So it's really messy. They just keep going back and forth. And then the next year, they're supposed to go to Sweden and Norway for a vacation at some point, and she gets sick. She gets really, really sick, and he just flies to New York instead to take care of her. They have some really cute moments. There's an almost, are we going to cross this line? But they never do. But they realize, like, this is very, like, we are really getting close to the line here. So again, they push away. Meanwhile, this summer, like I said, Palm Springs is a chaos. It's everything is going wrong. But at some point, it does start to rain. So it's a very romantic moment where, everything is really hot and warm and moist and humid, and they're having a terrible time. But it starts to rain, and they have a few fights where they don't talk about, but they kind of mention what happened in Croatia. And they kind of confront each other and start to actually show their emotions and say what they think. And it culminates into this big moment where they finally kiss and they sleep together, and they are so happy. And they're just trying to enjoy the moment. And it's like 12 years in the making. They're finally doing everything that they ever dreamed of and they ever thought of, because of course they've been thinking about each other all this time. And then they go to the wedding, and they're together, holding hands, even though Alex hates holding hands and hates all forms of PDA. But they get to the wedding, his family sees them together. Everyone's like, yes, finally, you made it. Wow. But, you know, his brother is also like, don't hurt him, you know, he always loved you, so treat him right. He almost married Sarah and he didn't because of you. So, and Poppy's always getting scared, and she knows that this is what she wants because she's always loved Alex, but maybe she also doesn't think things through a lot, so she's just going with the flow of the moment. This is what makes her happy, so that's it. You also find out that that summer they went to Sunnyvale and they took the picture, so the very first chapter, she goes back to that when we catch up, and she says there, after we took the picture and we were sitting in that car while it was raining around us, that's the first time that I thought that I was in love with him and that I wanted to kiss him. So that's why that moment was very important, because that is a bit when things started to switch for her. And then it was just denial, denial, denial all the following years. And then we come to the end of the wedding. It is a beautiful time. They have a really nice ceremony with all their family and everything. But then they're saying goodbye and they're at the airport and they're trying to figure out, okay, what's next? He's going back to Linfield and she's going back to New York. And she starts to say a lot of things, and she kind of admits that it was all a lie, like that she's been paying for the trip and the magazine is not paying. And he's like, so what, you tricked me? It's like, no, I wanted to be happy and I wasn't sure where was my happiness, and I thought that you make me happy, so then I just had to get you here for a vacation so we could get back to happy. And he's like, what do you mean? So did you just trick me here because you're not content with your life and you're trying to take a break from your life? So it just devolves into a whole fight at the airport. And he just says, you know what? I know what I want. I've thought things through. This is what I want. I want to be with you. I love you and I want to be in a relationship with you, but it feels like you're just kind of stumbling into things without thinking how it affects me and what are the consequences. So you need to take some time and think about what you want. Don't talk to me. Let's not talk. You need to figure things out. So she's crying. She's devastated. I'm crying. You're crying. Everybody's crying. She's devastated. She goes to New York. She tries to figure out her things. She does realize that her job is not making her happy anymore. This whole traveling thing, being alone and just going around the world is not the same. So she does give her notice at work. She starts therapy as well. And she starts to work on herself and to figure out what it is she wants from life, how her whole family and her childhood have turned her into who she is today, why she's so afraid of letting people in and showing herself completely to another person. And she realizes that Alex is the one person that has been there for her throughout everything, and he knows all the parts of her and he loves all the parts of her. So she knows for certain he's the one she wants to be with. Somewhere around here, we also get the big reveal of what happened in Croatia, which is at this point, they had both been single for some time. They knew that there was something there. She had been sick. He had taken care of her. They almost kissed. And when they're in Croatia, they get really drunk. And when they're in the room, she actually kisses him, or he kisses her. Like, they're really drunk, so they just kind of go for it. And then she kind of has a sobering up moment. She's like, oh no, like, what am I doing? Are we gonna sleep together? Like, what's happening? So they kind of take a second and they're like, oh, damn, we shouldn't have done that. But she takes this as rejection. So she thinks, oh, he doesn't want me the same way I want him. I can't lose him as a friend, so I'm just gonna pretend that nothing happened. So the next day she's like, hi, how are you? Good morning, everything good? And she just pretends that nothing happened. She's like, yeah, you know what? We don't have to talk about it. It's never gonna happen again. We're fine. We're just friends. Don't worry about it. And he's like, oh, so that's what you want? She's like, yeah, that's what I want. So of course, he was not thinking like that. He didn't try to reject her. But because the whole miscommunication thing, he thought that's not what she wanted, she thought that's not what he wanted, so they were really feeling rejected in their own way. They didn't talk about it because she just wanted to keep everything perfect as it was. And then the trip finished, she didn't text him, she was waiting for him to text, he was waiting for her to text, no one texted anyone, and then too much time passed and they didn't talk for a full 2 years until today, where she just said, let's go to Palm Springs, and they go on a trip. The ending is that she figures out what she wants, it's him, no matter where, no matter how. She just wants to be with him. He is her home. So she gets on a flight, she goes home, she finds him, she does this whole declaration where she says, I love you, you're my home, and you're the person that I want to be with. And then actually he says, okay, but I don't think we should do this, we're too different. And you're like, what? After this like big love declaration in public, he's like, no, I don't think we should do this, but thank you though. You're like, what? But then he does go after her in the parking lot, and he's like, you know, like I also started therapy, and my therapist says that I'm afraid of love and that I'm self-sabotaging. So I don't know, like maybe we should try. You are my home as well, and I do want to be with you. I don't know how this is going to look like, but the most important thing is that we try it together. So they do have their happy ending. And I love that she kind of, Emily Henry, she wraps things up, but it's not everything with a perfect bow. It's not all spelled out. They do get together. The epilogue is them together enjoying life. She finds a new job in a different magazine where she can just stay in New York and talk to people and connect with people and tell their stories and why they love New York so much. So she's still having this connection with people, but she's not traveling anymore. He is doing some short stories, he's a writer, so he's doing short stories, and he's having substitute teacher jobs. And they're just trying things out. So they're staying in New York for like 5 months. He moves in with her and they try to see how it fits. And then they go to Linfield and they stay there for a while because he has a house. So they just stay there and they try to do something else. So they're just, you know, it's not happy ending, everything's gonna be perfect. It's, they know they want to be together. Home is where you are. And we will keep trying things out to see what fits best and make the life that we want to have. So it is a very uplifting ending, of course, with romances. It is a nice book. I read it in like 2 days, and it is, hopefully it is going to be a really nice movie adaptation. I'm looking forward to it. And that's it for today. Thank you so much.